Bob. We are the BLERD official podcast. We are so excited that you are here. I am Karan Ashley, and with me today and every day is Hilton George. How you doing, Hilton Sweat George? How are you?
Oh my gosh!
There's a story behind that for another show.
Another show.
We have had the opportunity to just do that classic Netflix binge where you done popped 4 things of popcorn and you done turned off the world and you done had your throat handed to you a couple times. So
I watched
I said, I got to get together with my sisters and talk about this before we get out. So here's my chance. I'm so excited.
Yes.
So excited.
Yes.
So excited.
Christi Renee, Key Sweat's other cousin. How are you doing?
Wait till y'all hear why this is all of a sudden a thing.
They would have known because last week's episode we'll go give you the outtake episode.
Yeah, that's
the outtake episode will explain it all.
It'll be on BOP Plus, the subscription service you pay for on BOP Plus. The BOP Plus members will get the story.
Time to monetize.
The BOP Plus is gonna pay for our MomoCon trip.
Okay. I am well. I'm happy. I mean, again, we're still in a state of crisis, but it's all good. We're still here fighting a good fight. I'm excited to talk about what we are talking about today because I have been a diehard committed fan, like the writing, the content, the actors, the everything is brilliant, and you know me, I'm predicting more. I don't care what nobody says.
Keep hope alive, girl. Keep hope alive. Okay, so what we are alluding to, guys, you guys know we had to dedicate an entire episode to Ozark. Ozark. We got to pour some out for the Ozark that ain't here. Because Ozark is officially over. We got the final second half of season 4. And I'm not going to lie, guys. I am so sad. That was one of it's like if you have guilty pleasures, Ozark was on the top of the list. It honestly is one of my top favorite TV shows, one of my top favorite, series of characters. Like the characters, there were times I was disturbed with the final episode. I am not gonna lie. I was disturbed. I was perturbed. I was all kinds of things. But if I look at the whole series as a whole, I just want to thank the creators of Ozark. I want to thank Jason Bateman. I want to thank the actors, Laura Linney, Julia Garner, girlfriend. I don't know you, but I love you. They brought so much
in music.
Yes.
She went in this last season. She went in. Yeah, she went in.
Is the truth. But you know what? They have given us 4 seasons. I think I don't remember. I think it was 7 years or 6 years that it's taken to do those.
It's like 5, I think.
Was it 5?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
I was like, one of the girls was like, I was this age, and then now
she was 16. The daughter, Charlotte, was 16, and now she's 21. So
it's crazy. So they've given us just a plethora of enjoyment, and I love every single person involved. And if you watched Ozark, if you haven't watched Ozark, you have to watch it.
Must.
It is an award-winning show. Award-winning in
no doubt,
and acting and writing. Yes. I mean, and it is well deserved. And after you watch the series, there's another, the making of Ozark, and they have like this behind the scenes, and it's so enjoyable. It's just so enjoyable to see the camaraderie. And it was like, I heard someone recently say, it's very rare when you have a television show that's that entertaining, that's beautiful on the outside as well as the inside. And it seems like everyone loved working on that show. The work environment was beautiful. It was just a place that they just put it all, they left it all on the table. I mean, Jason Bateman, I've been a huge Jason Bateman fan for years. Yes. And it's such an accomplishment as an actor, as a creator, when he had said something in the making of, and he was like, it was made pretty much exactly the way that I envisioned it. So that says a lot, because there's so many different people. I have to thank Netflix for allowing them to make the show that they really wanted to make, right? So I don't even know where to begin. It's such a deep. Let's just start with what was your favorite? Who was your favorite character on Ozark? Because we're gonna peel this back like an onion. Who was your favorite? I vote Ruth. It was Marty and Ruth for me. I was a Marty and Ruth fan.
Well, I mean, it had to be. It had to be Marty because for me, because Marty was the what do you call it? The center of the story.
He's the heart.
Like he's the heart, and he's the moral center. He is the vehicle to which most of the audience attaches themselves to and sees the story from, because we're kind of following him, and then the family comes along. This is kind of all his doing. Like he's the one that kind of brought about the circumstances that kind of brought everything to bear. Now you have Laura Linney coming in, and doing her Laura thing, and Ruth comes in and does her thing, and takes charge in different parts. But my man Marty, without him, there's no show. You can't do it without a Marty.
Yeah, no show. And if you have never watched Ozark, this is your time to disconnect, because we are taking a deep dive.
Naturally. We're the spoiler alert show.
Spoilers of the ending of the show are going to happen. Christi, who was your favorite character?
So I am a diehard fan of a developing character. I love when we just automatically see a character and just know who they are, and this is what it is. Here's the hardest part about this show. It's so full of so many rooted and fierce characters that I don't even know really. Like, I love Marty. Again, Marty BLERD is incredible. Jason Bateman is just such a great deliverer and he just holds this weight of I don't know what. Again, he's a dry comedic.
He's a steady force.
He is, and he can be in any scene, and he can be as dry as the day is long, and still make it hilarious and dark.
Impactful.
Dark. Yes, and it is very much impactful. Ruth is my favorite developing character, but she still maintained this all the way to the end, all the way to the very end. She drops the F-bomb.
That's her favorite word.
It's her favorite thing.
Almost
ever.
every line.
And and it's hysterical, but she definitely develops over time, and you see the growth. I mean, that hair stays the same, baby, but everything else.
You go to the Ozark, you'll meet a Ruth.
That's it. Yeah. And listen, and if you haven't in your life, I get you a Ruth in your life at some point. You gotta have at least one.
Yeah.
But yeah, and again, and when we get to the next layer, or one of the layers, when we talk about one of the most gripping things, again, in this storyline alone, the way my heart aches for the entire time for probably the least thought of character, which is Jonah.
Okay.
Jonah.
Oh, Jonah. Yeah.
Jonah and the whole
Hilton's face.
Yeah, no. Well, because Hilton, you ain't a mama, so you don't know. But I'm telling you, Jonah was the heart tugger.
This is me. Why every time Jonah hit on the screen?
Jonah was the Tyreek of right. Sorry.
But
Jonah did it for you. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, Jonah was the heart tugger for me. I mean, he really was. But every character in this show, again,
tugging on my last nerve.
If he didn't,
realistic.
Yeah, well, and it was only in season 4, really. I mean, it was his last season that he had this complete divergence, from the family plan. And then he had to find his way. And I think the way it finally came back, they came full circle at the end, was pure brilliance. I'm just saying it was pure brilliance, because again, they knew how to suck you in to the heart of it. And that's the beauty of Ozark.
Right.
Well, I think you touched on something, Christi, that I think is what makes this so special, as far as like the way it's written and the way it's performed. And I think that goes back to Jason Bateman's performance. Most of the method acting that he's doing, or the method of acting that he's doing, he has used in the past exclusively for comedic timing. I don't know if you remember watching him in Arrested Development, or even as far back as Family Ties, or any of the movies that he's done. Like that pause, stone face, sarcastic, has always been used to comedic effect. But here, it brings about like sense of weight and dread. And like, you know, he is the person that walks into the room. And even when we take it as funny, it is him using his timing, because he is a character actor. He is an actor that kind of plays a lot of those same, you know, that same line everywhere he goes and every character he plays, but he's using that same, you know, method to bring about seriousness and weight to the story. And this is the first time that we saw him do it in this show. Now, he did some of it in The Outsider, which was also the same team. Everybody from the script writer to him producing to the guy who did the score for The Outsider was the same people who did Ozark. Which is why I love The Outsider up until the last, you know, episode. But anyway, but the point is that that's why those of us who love him got a chance to see everything we love about him, but in a different way. And I don't think if he wasn't producing the show, wasn't a part of the writing, wasn't part of the directing, that we would have gotten the Marty that we saw.
Right.
And I just love watching everything that he was able to bring about. He told a story in the same way that you had David Cranston or Richard Cranston bringing about in Breaking Bad. You know, you have this central character that you can sympathize with, and you watch, you know, the world around him kind of starting to happen to him, implode, losing control, things getting out of hand. And it happens from episode 1. I know that's a long time ago, but you remember episode 1, this dude out here killing people like in episode 1. He's like, whoa, hold up, wait a minute.
Well, I was going to go to that. If you've never watched Ozark, the premise of the story and how this ball, it's just like a ball that just keeps rolling and keeps growing and gets out of control. How this happens, this chain of effects, is that Marty is an accountant. He's bored. He's unhappy in his marriage. He is, you know, living a very mundane life. And he is talking to his business partner, and they have had a client, and they've gotten to the point where their company's about to grow. They're in an office overlooking Chicago. And if you know how much that would cost in order to, you know, move on up. And his, you know, he's never questioned, you know, what he kind of is in a pivotal place because he's questioning what they are doing. And, you know, and he's talking to a young couple he's managing their money and their finances. And he knows, like, you know, they kind of are not, he's questioning his existence and what he brings to the world. Cut to, you know, he gets a call in the middle of the night from his partner and says, hey, you know, you got to meet me. You got to meet me. And he finds out that his partner, the reason that they've been this successful is that he has been money laundering money for the Mexican cartel. And it's like, he is put in a situation he never asked to be in. But he knew something was going on. He didn't understand why they were this successful. So long story short, in this same meeting, in this same moment, he finds out he's working for the Mexican cartel, and he didn't realize he was. But he also finds out that his partner was cheating the Mexican cartel, and they are about to be killed. And Marty can do one of two things.
Episode 1, people. Episode 1.
Episode 1. It isn't even like you have no time to breathe.
There's no slow burning here at all.
One of the things that I love about Ozark, it always puts them in impossible situations. And Marty has a choice. He can get shot in the head like his partner, just like he sees his partner die instantly, and he's got a gun to his head, so he can either get shot with his partner or he can fight. And only the way that he knows how to fight is he's an accountant. We've been laundering your money, so let me continue to launder your money. But this time we're going to take it out of Chicago because Chicago has too many eyes. We're going to go to the Ozarks, and we're going to do it very intentionally. We're going to do it very, you know,
with land and water.
We're in a place where people aren't. They're such simple people there. You know,
that's the underestimate. Yeah, that's the underestimate.
He thinks there are such simple people there. They won't even know what hit them. They won't know what's coming. Please, please, please save my life. Please don't kill me. And the Mexican cartel in that moment says, okay, I'll let you do it. But at this moment, Marty knows him and his family, they move in the middle of the night. They know they are either going to have to fight to stay alive, or they're going to have to, you know, be assassinated. They know they can't escape this. They are in an impossible situation. And when
can I
you,
just say one thing,
yes,
because you're right at this point. We have to remember that his plan to go to the Ozarks, he pulled out of his ass.
Yes.
Because his friend had just given him a brochure to go there for a party and buy a house or rent a house,
like buy a cheap house in the Ozarks.
Yeah, like you know, let's just kick it. And so he just so happened to have the brochure, and he turned it into a money laundering plan for the cartel with a gun to his head because he had it on him. He said, "We were just talking about doing this thing. Don't you want to be a part of this plan to launder money out in the Ozarks with all of these people, you know, who buy drugs and sell drugs, but there's no one watching it because it's not
under the radar."
And there was no plan for that. It had not been a part of the discussion, and he just pulled it out of his ass with a gun to his head. And I'm just like, go ahead, Marty.
Yes, it just shows you the complexity of the characters, where it's like this guy, he's smart, book smart, but this man also had to be smart enough to pull something like that out of his ass and to go, look, we can continue to do this. Why would you mess this up? I can do it. I actually do it better than him. So let me do this for you. Christi,
and I think episode 1, you know, as you go through all the different, season 1, as you go through all the seasons and every episode, and you see the way that they evolve as a family and all the different, what we would consider, you know, criminal activity. But it's criminal activity that, you know, I love how they had to sanction it, you know, because then as we evolve into with the whole FBI and everything that comes to pass. But it's so funny because when I was watching the last, you know, season, this last half of the last season, I had to go back and remind myself how we even got here in the first place. And they didn't, while they had their own indiscretions in different ways, like she had an affair, and so you have those little things, and she was into politics. I mean, she's definitely a brainiac, you know, it took both versions. And again, of their smarts and their wit and their talents to pull it off. But it's so funny because every time something new happened and something evolved into, again, more criminal activity,
they kept getting deeper.
It's deeper. Because they couldn't get out.
They were just sink back down.
And they would have to do acts themselves sometimes, or even commission those acts or set the act up or whatever. They played some role in it, whether or not they ever pulled a trigger or whatever. But
blood was on their hands.
They had a choice. You said it best. It was life or death. And they chose to try to live with the possibility of death at every single turn. Like this show gave you couldn't predict a damn thing with this show. Don't ever think that you can figure it out. They were just brilliant in the way that they keep you on your toes and guessing and thinking you can figure it out. Even the character, there were moments when guns would go off and somebody's brain fragments, and I'm like, of all people, like, what? I mean, it's just crazy. It was just crazy.
Well,
it was wonderful.
This is the thing. The pivotal moment was they get to the Ozarks, and Marty realizes very quickly that, you mentioned this, he couldn't do this alone. So he had to bring in his wife, who was, like you said, very smart politically. She was a very smart woman. And even though their marriage was broken, he was like, we're all we have if we want to save our family. And he had to tell his kids, like, it almost came to a point where you're like having to tell your children, we money launder for the cartel, and you're just gonna have to deal with it. Otherwise, you will die. And you saw this family, because that's the heart of the whole show, was these two families. It was, you know, the Byrds and the Langmores, and they had to learn very quickly that if the kids didn't know, if they all weren't on the same page, it was going to be impossible. It was going to be impossible to live.
Yeah.
And
people showing up at their house.
Yes. They meet Ruth Langmore, and they meet her whole family. And Marty realizes, and it's very fun. I loved watching the behind the scenes because it kind of took you through everything. But it also showed that scene where she said, "What did you think of me when you first met me?" And he goes, "I thought you were clever." And she goes, you thought I was trash. And he goes, but I thought you were, he goes, I gave you a job. You know, like he's basically like, if I couldn't have thought you were trash because I gave you a job. And she goes, I made you give me a job. He goes,
right,
because you were clever. He knew,
right?
Like he knew. He was like, girl. I think Marty instantly knew when he met Ruth. Like he goes, this girl can either be my enemy or she can be my greatest asset.
Yeah.
And
he had this paternal relationship with her from the beginning.
He genuinely
she
cared about her
all the way through. She never
until the very end
really accepted him as someone that she felt like she could trust. But that's because all the men in her life had been untrustworthy.
Horrible.
And
terrible.
So she comes from this trauma background and having to be strong and having to fight, every inch of the way for everything she's ever wanted. But I think that's what Marty saw in her and said, okay, I'm going to put you in a pivotal position because you are advanced enough to do it. And she was doing good for a while there. And then, again, circumstances
your trauma comes out to get you.
You can't beat that. But I'm going to say this. Look, I love the show. Okay.
Yes.
But I am looking at this show and I'm seeing a trend of drug dealing families across all kinds of shows like this, where the kids are doing stuff that's getting everybody in trouble because they don't fall in line. They don't do what the hell they told to do.
The kids never fall in line.
Like, do you not understand that the wrong word or the wrong facial expression or being in the wrong place at the wrong time is going to get you killed, get everybody in the family killed? So when I tell you to stay here or shut up or don't say nothing, and they keep not shutting up, not staying here, not saying nothing. And I know it's a plot device. I know we have to move the story forward.
Yes.
But I'm sitting there like, if these kids don't shut up, who got a belt? Who got a belt? There's no belt in the Ozarks because I need to get a belt. And
But think about though, Hilton, think about what was put on them. So when especially like with Jonah. So when Jonah started to fall apart, it was when his uncle came around. He really, first of all, when Buddy died, Buddy was the man who owned the home that the BLERD family initially moved into. Beautiful setup, my Lord. It's like a dream. I mean,
that house was a character.
The scenery alone, those camera shots, those aerial shots, it makes you want to go literally, but then you don't, because if you watch the show, you're like, oh, hell no, never mind. But it is gorgeous out there. But so when they take over, he has this relationship with, this grandfather relationship with Buddy. And really, Jonah is more in line than Charlotte, the daughter, because Charlotte's like, I miss my friends. Charlotte was a teenager. So she's like, I ain't trying to be here. And then the shift starts to happen. And then, of course, what is it in season 3? The Wendy Bird's brother shows up. Yes. Who is a troubled soul. He has mental issues. He's got off his meds and he's just going off the deep end slowly. Well, actually rather quickly because it doesn't take long. But that is where the tear begins to happen for Jonah. And he starts the veil is lifted for him in a sense where he's like, something has to give if you're going to put in jeopardy, all of us. I mean, I wept in the scene between Jonah and Charlotte when they had to go wait in the tomb. In the tomb, yeah. Where all the money is. Well, they had to go to Mexico and they didn't know if their parents were coming back. Right. And he asked Charlotte, would you let me be killed? Like, I'm your brother. That's what mom did to her brother. Would you let... And he just wanted her to say, I would never do that. No, I want you. I choose you. Yeah. And he wanted that from his mom. And again, he had this affinity for his uncle. But again, outside of his illness or even in the midst of his illness, he just loved him because he felt like that was the only tie. That was the only tie to normalcy. I got you. Of childhood. And I just preaching to the choir. Yeah. I'm telling you. It was annoying to me because listen, I'm talking about I'm watching Power and I'm watching their kid acting up, getting everybody in trouble. Tyreek, I've been wanting to beat Tyreek for 10 years. I can't get at him. He got security. I can't get to him. So he grown now, so it don't matter. But and I was having them same Tyreek moments with this kid. I'm sitting there like, okay, I get you. I understand where your head is at. I know you're emotional because you're 14, 15. I get you. I was there too. I understand.
but your mama told you there's people out there with assault rifles. So I'm gonna need you to shut up, and I'm gonna need you to do this. And you up here talking about, yeah, but and then I'm like, look, okay, I understand, but him not being able to see the big picture. And again, I know it's a plot device. I know the story got to move forward. If everybody had done what they were supposed to do, this whole series would have been 2 episodes long. I get it,
and I would have been furious.
But it was just instinctual. Just the hand just lock up. Just.
I thought it was ready.
I thought it was a beautiful sign of development, and just how, like you said, how they progressed the story, and they showed how they were close, then they tore apart, and then ultimately they come back, and it's and they don't. There's not a lot of sap in this freaking show, so don't for a second feel like it's gonna be, there's this, because she even says right up to the last, almost right before the last, scenery, I guess, or a moment, and it's like, no celebrations. We're not celebrating right now, not just yet. And it's like, thank you, because as soon as I start getting happy, I'm like, oh Lord, they done blew somebody's brains out again.
Well, you know what it is? It was a beautiful show of complex characters that you saw, even the Martys, even the people who was like, I did not ask to be here. All I want to do is protect my family. All I want to do is get them out of here. All I want is everything to go back to normal. You could not, even those characters, even the ones that you really loved, it was like you're affected by the madness. You're going to be affected, and even if you fight, a part of you is going to turn into a monster. There is no way that none of them could survive this and not be changed. And that was the best.
And they couldn't survive it without each other.
Yeah. And that was
even with some of the bad decisions, they needed all of that. And they were incredible.
The ultimate goal. The BLERDs were always like, we've got to protect the family. We've got to protect each other. And we had so many like cool characters. I mean, Darlene Snell was like
man,
a nightmare.
Darlene
that was the wicked witch of the West.
And
your little dog too.
And she would get that assault rifle and shoot your head off
and keep it moving and make a sandwich right around your ass,
and then make you go dig that hole and bury that body. Like she didn't bury nobody's.
After pouring cyanide on you first, she gonna melt you down, and then she gonna bury you right out there in the poppy field.
Oh man, it was so.
You know
great.
Who I also liked?
Who?
I developed a slight love for Omar Navarro.
Oh, well, this is the thing. I was going to get to that. They had the best villains. It was like, it wasn't just someone you're going to hate. I hate him. It was like, you love to hate him. And Omar Navarro went from the monster to like, I was like, please, like when at that one scene where he meets his fate, you're just like, why? Like, you're just like, oh,
because I was rooting for him to get back to Mexico.
I wanted him to get back to Mexico. I didn't want his family to win. He actually wanted to get out. He was very similar to Marty.
He was ready. Yep. He
was in charge of this. He was in charge of this horrific situation that probably was passed down to him, and he probably had to take the mantle because he had no choice. Otherwise, he'd be killed or he'd be a soldier. He had no choice. So it was like he was put in this position, and he just wanted his kids to have a normal life, be set up, and they could. If he couldn't escape, they could escape. He wanted better. Yep. And it was like they had the best villains. Like right when you thought you needed to hate Omar,
they humanized him.
Yeah,
they really humanized him because of the kids and because of what he wanted to do. Because look, when he was introduced, like he was doing the classic drug lord stuff. He was icing people for anything and nothing. When he killed the lawyer, that was a shock.
Oh my Lord! Brain fragments.
Like, you don't know who he's gonna kill and why.
In the middle of the night.
And he come up and hugs him. Is like, hey, you won. Here, look at you.
And that was like the end of a whole season.
That was the end of the season.
That was the last
brains on the shirt. Cut to black.
See you in 7 months.
Like
I think it was the end of season 3, and then we go.
And see, up until that point, incredible. We were looking at him as this monster, as any person who has to do monstrous things are. But then once you understand, he's like, because of what he is and the organization he has to lead and the kind of people that are around him, he has to be that. And we really see that in stark contrast when Marty goes down to Mexico to run in his stead and kind of reestablish his dominance over his cartel while he's in prison. And he's like, these are the things you can't hesitate. If you find out, they're going to look for weakness. If you show any mercy, they're going to exploit it. And Marty had to go in there and kind of watch people killed and tortured and all this stuff without being the guy he wants to be, which is sympathetic and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. And so then we're watching, because of Marty dehumanizing himself to do this, it humanized Navarro. And now we're kind of like, okay, I understand. This guy at least has an intelligence behind
another impossible position.
If he gets the opportunity to come in and make the moves that they're laying out, everybody can win and nobody else will die. But of course, somebody's crazy, somebody's mad, somebody wants vengeance, so somebody got to die. And when that person died, there's a ripple effect, and then the story keeps tumbling. And that's the nature of this story. But that's what makes it so compelling. This is not, so I promise you, if you have not seen one episode of Ozark, it's not what you think it is.
It's not.
And that's the problem. And I have this beef. It's an ongoing beef with Netflix. I'm talking to you, Netflix. Y'all do a terrible job of advertising and promoting your shows before you release them. Y'all just throwing up on people's feed.
They just dial it in now.
Yeah, they hope people click them because there's some great content on it. But because there's no promo, there's no tee up. I heard about Ozark. I didn't see no junkets. They weren't coming around to doing the late night shows before it showed up on my queue. I just so happened to click it because I was in binge mode, and I'm like, oh snap!
Yeah, I came in on season 2 when I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta watch Ozark.
So if you haven't watched it because you don't know what it's about, or because you don't understand the relationship between the name and blah 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 blah, trust me, you watch it. By the time you get 10 minutes in, you're locked. You're not going nowhere. Call it after work.
People are gonna have a real treat on their hands when, now that all the episodes are out, all the seasons are out. I mean, you even got the follow-up with the farewell to Ozark, which is, again, heart, you just cry.
Beautiful.
Because again, you attach yourself to these characters, and that is when you have won. You have done it, you writers, you creators. You have done it when you we on first name basis. Like, I know Wendy and Marty, and you know me. And Jonah is nephew, honey. I love I love these characters, all of them, just as great. You know who I got pissed off at? Who? And I was upset.
And you didn't get mad at Jonah?
Because he's a child. That's a baby. Listen, the dang FBI Miller. Agent Miller, Maya Miller.
She let me down.
I was real disappointed with that girl. I was real disappointed.
But again,
people going off script. Everybody.
That's the people. That's the beautiful part of the show, is that the ones you think are the steady force, or the ones you think you can trust, end up being the ones you should never trust in the beginning.
Yeah.
Or it's just the curveball. Like, this show was the king of the curveball.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. It was the king of the curveball, and it was. I usually watch Ozark in the middle of the night because it was like that was what I would watch. I can't tell you how many times I'd be in the middle of the night. My husband's asleep in another room. I'm like, ah! Like, I'm surprised it didn't come out and be like, what is wrong with you? I was screaming.
Yeah.
Julia Garner. She gets everything. I mean, you saw this. What we thought was this white trash juvenile delinquent girl, and she gave us everything from tragedy to her growing as a woman to her being a badass when she had no other choice. Again, another situation, a person born into an impossible situation. Crime was her only choice. And then you saw her actually dream of a future and actually, want something better and actually see that she could have something better. But it's like when you don't, and when it's like one of those situations where her the one Achilles heel of Ruth was always her emotions would always get the best of her, and she would do terrible things in those moments.
And Marty would be trying to tell her, "Don't do it,"
and he would, and
never listen.
And when they killed Wyatt, which was her best friend, her cousin, her only family, poor Three never. I don't know what happened to him. He just like
I got theories.
They should have like sent him to college, or they should have just killed him because Three was almost non-existent by season 4.
When he showed up, it was like.
Yeah, like I wished he would have it would have been another tragedy that Ruth would have had to deal with. But when they killed Wyatt, it was like you saw her soul leave her body.
And they kill characters here without a whole lot of buildup. Like you know,
ain't no conversation.
You didn't see it coming.
Yeah, in most series, you're kind of like, well, that's the main character. There's no way that he gonna walk in there and not walk out. Oh,
anyone could die.
They just Like, hold on. Like, wait a minute. Is that a dream sequence? I know they didn't just kill off a main character for no reason in the middle of the
when Issei Morales died and we thought he was like the drug cartel of all, Didn't
even get to do a monologue. I'm waiting for like the beg for your life and you'll never get the best of me. I've got this like, well, hello to like.
Yeah, why was gone within
you ain't even gonna say nothing. You mad at him, you trying to kill him for what he did to you. And you ain't even gonna cut him out of nothing. He didn't get halfway in the door and he laid out. Now I like that about the show because that keeps you on your toes and not get too comfortable because when you invest in characters, and this is an old Alfred Hitchcock, thing that he did with Psycho. I can't remember the name of the actress, but we forget Psycho started with a bank robbery. And this woman, it was at the time, like she was the Angelina Jolie of the theaters at that time.
Janet Leigh. That's Jamie Lee Curtis's mother. Jamie Lee Curtis.
And she comes into the scene, and I don't want to get too deep into Psycho, but we don't know what the movie was about, or at least if you're in 1945, you didn't know what it was about when the first time you watched it. She goes in, and everybody thinks this is a movie about this woman that robbed the bank and goes in, and then 15 minutes later, she's getting knifed in the shower, and everybody's like, hold up, they did not just kill the star. We got an hour of movie. And so it just draws you in, like we gotta find out what the hell is going on.
It kicks you off your axis.
That, like every season, like even in episode 1, we fell a little bit in love with the toxic masculinity of Marty's partner. We don't even remember his name because he wasn't on screen long enough, but we understand why he was there,
30 minutes,
who he was, and then he catches a bullet in the head 35 minutes into the episode. And we're like, oh no, like I wanted to know more about him. He was going to say some smart shit. He was making jokes that made me laugh. And now he's dead in an office building. Like,
Well, it just made you, it never made you feel safe. Like, I think that's what was so great about Ozark. We were you were never safe.
Because no one was safe.
Yeah, no one was safe. So that was, it leads me to the next thing where when we get the final episode, I was shocked as hell that the BLERD family survived. And I was just like, Well, they did.
Yeah.
We know emotionally.
We
know that emotionally they did not survive. But how did you feel about the final episode? I'll say briefly. I didn't hate it like I hated The Sopranos. I didn't hate it like I hated, what is it, Game of Thrones. Like they didn't piss me off to that point.
Game of Thrones. My therapist said don't talk about that.
It didn't do that to me, right? But I didn't love it. And I felt like there were so many things that just like, I don't know. Well, first of all, I was pissed. I was pissed that if it's going to be a Greek tragedy and you're going to take my Ruth away, then you need to take one of them birds away. Like I felt like, yes, I just felt like when they killed Ruth, I felt like they could have seeded it a little more. Because when Marty realized, again, he's in an impossible situation, he couldn't warn Ruth that she was going to be murdered. He couldn't, because that meant he would. The main reason he was in the Ozarks is he would lose his children and he'd lose his wife. He knew they would die if he even remotely said anything to her. But I felt like if they would have showed the anguish that Marty felt in that moment. I wish that he would have like had one desperate attempt to try to just warn her, tell her, and miss that opportunity.
Karen,
then I would have been like, fuck.
Karen, I'm with you, but I'm telling you right now, you would respect the series less if they had given you that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that this was.
But I wanted him just to be more like, he just kind of was like,
he couldn't.
I think
he's in the middle of this fundraiser. He's surrounded by donors, and if he falls apart, if he had given anything that could have been considered a sign, the woman told her. She told her assassin. If they make eye contact with this, like
they blink wrong.
Anything that would have been considered a sign or an indicator. And Marty is always the king of lock-in and stoic. Like he's mastered that. So I get it. And of course Wendy didn't care.
His daughter, I felt like Ruth was more like became more his daughter than even his own kids. So I felt like even if he couldn't do that, let's just say take that off the table. But if they would have showed me just the brokenness of knowing I can't save her. I can't save everyone. And here I am again in an impossible situation. I think it would have been more, I would have been okay, but it pissed me off that it almost seemed like he just like, okay, we got stoic Marty and he stood up there and, obviously he's thinking about it. Obviously he looked over at her, they gave us a little, I just wanted a little more. Okay. So that was my opinion, but okay. Hilton, what was your opinion and what were your thoughts of the final episode and how they put a big old bow on this baby?
Okay, so remember in the beginning, the beginning of the season starts with a massive car crash, right? Yes. And we're like, okay, so we're watching the end in the beginning, past this prologue type of thing. And if you see the wreck, you're like, oh my God, like somebody died.
Somebody's dead.
But nobody died. And that kind of shocked me. And I said, okay, well, I thought we were going to lose a bird because the storyline showed them surviving what would have killed probably any number of other people. I mean, this thing tumbled 50 times, down the road. What did Eddie Murphy say in another 48 hours? I was in a bus that turned over 67 times. I had a hard day. It was that kind of
Yeah.
And they all got out and walked home in an Uber and all this stuff. Like, oh, we're going to shower. Shit. So that I thought that was going to be a little bit more of a device in another direction. So I like that kind of fake out. I don't think that there was, as much as the flaws and the things that are a little disappointing, I can't think of any other way that you can end a series like this if you're going to end it, right?
Right.
Other than the way they did it, on a slight question mark, but with a period attached to it, like a period and a question mark with an exclamation point.
Yeah.
And the right characters came back. It was not a throwaway script like Game of Thrones.
Right.
So I think that this was the best that they could have done, and that's a lot. And I think it looked really,
it's hard
really
to wrap
good.
Up a show like this.
Very, very hard, especially with all the moving parts. I mean, they could tell the story forever. They could have this show going for another 20 years if they really wanted to do it. And that. And it's like, okay, so how do you finalize this in such a way? I really do like the way that they killed the people they killed. Mm-hmm. I love when John Boy, and I'll never call him anything but that, John Boy comes back as the grandfather trying to take the kids. Yes. And I mean, when you talk about, Christi's always talking about playing chess versus checkers, and we talk about that in this group a lot. And they are always playing chess. So the investigator, how do we get him off the table? Well, we could find somebody to kill him, or we could break his car down so he don't make it to court. This is the kind of stuff you and I would be thinking about.
Yeah.
But no, we're going to go to like the Senate and get this guy his job back. By way of him having to go, and he's got to go to court on the day that he would be in court with us to go and get his career back that he's always wanted. Like, I'm like, whoa, like that's so over the top.
Well, it's smart. It's
smart over
Marty
the top.
And
it's another form. It's another weapon. They use the power of the pen.
Power, and I love seeing Wendy Byrde come into full circle as a character, because she could have been playing this desperate, loving mom, but we saw her as damaged. We saw her as cold. We saw her as cut off.
It humanized her, because at one point we thought she was a freaking monster, and I was like, "What is wrong with Wendy Byrde?"
And let's say that in reverse. In dehumanizing her character, they humanized her character because she was in this trope of being like this villain. She was developing into a villain. But what we realized is that her relationship with her father had cut her off from her own emotions.
Yeah.
And when we watched her, we watched her in several scenes where she was acting like she was begging and daddy please and all this stuff. And dad knew she was playing around like, everybody knows what you're up to. Nobody's falling for it anymore. Get yourself up, get out of my face and walk away. And then she's like, and like, yo. And then she's like, committed herself. She's like, you're going to put me in this prison, this facility, or I'm going to go and I'm going to shoot my father. And we believe it at that point. When she banged her head up against the wall of the side of the car and drew blood, that let me know this woman is so cut off from her emotions.
This bitch
self-harm
is crazy.
was the only way that she could express herself. Crying was a device. Crying was a device to get it was a means to an end for her. And we're like, wait a minute, if that was always the case, who was this woman that we've been watching for the last 4 seasons? You know, who's been crying and my children and my life. Have you been the same sociopath this entire time?
Well, she was the real crazy one. Her brother really
to see her take that crazy turn and see that whatever you want to call it, a crazy gene, or you know, she interpreted the trauma in a different way from her brother, whatever you want to call it. But you're like, yo, she is off her rocker. Her nut is gone, yo. So I like that. That was a great way to end the season.
Oh no, that was beautiful. I agree. Christi.
And she directed those episodes, by the way. She directed those episodes that humanized her character. So I'm like, go ahead, Laura.
You gotta let somebody
in front and behind the camera. Yes.
Go ahead, Christi.
It's funny. Okay, so I thought this last episode was phenomenal. And again, I cried. I cried. I mean, I cried in so many moments. I thought I would cry when Ruth died. I wasn't expecting her to die. When Claire's mouth just rolled out all the crap. Like, who's killing Claire? Because she's awful. Anyway, she just should have went home. She shouldn't have been there.
Just weak. Weak.
And so but I didn't. I felt like a release for Ruth. Ruth needed to be free, and I felt for her, and she's my favorite, but I didn't cry. I'm gonna tell you when I really lost it. I lost it when Wendy gets home from wherever she is, and she's getting ready to get dressed for the big event, and Charlotte comes out of her room and she's in her gown.
Well, they decided to support their parents.
I cried when Jonah walked out in his tux. So y'all have to understand. I watched this from a different perspective.
I love though how it resonates different with each of us. Like, that's the beautiful part of this amazing show.
And so I wouldn't have called her. I feel like we develop, you know, as me, just as a mama. And I know, y'all know I've talked about it before, and I'm very transparent about it. So the struggles are real. This shit is hard. They hate you for so long and for nothing, just because they can, right?
Well, it's like this show. They hated them because they were protecting them. Like it was like they couldn't. But even if they see through their head that we're doing this to protect you, you will die.
But even if that wasn't the case, they're gonna find something. You didn't make the waffles on time or whatever. Right. So there's always something, and that's just
impossible situation.
And that's how I guess I watch things. I can't help it. I can't like separate my mother heart from everything else. So when I see these relationships like this, and then I learned as it progressed with the daddy. You know, at first I thought he had all the best intentions. He was a piece of shit. He was horrible. Her father was he was the cancer that was infecting her, that infected the brother. Like it just ran rampant, and no one had gotten a hold on it, because I'm telling you, the real sociopath was him. He's the real sociopath, because they were just a product. Yes. And so she had developed, of course, this armor and this protection and this way of living and way of
she kind of become herself.
And so she did everything she could and for him to show up, and again, in full transparency, I'm gonna try not to cry. But I've had the experience of kids being taken away and being gone. And so because of all kinds of crazy, it's just unbelievable. But going through a nasty divorce, that's just what happened in my story. And so when she's begging, like, I don't care what you think about me, don't take my kids away. Right. And it's all for the wrong reasons, and because
she knew what he was doing.
She knew him. She knew
his intentions.
She tried to say, and he's over here spewing this other facade, this lie, and oh my God, just the whole holy roller, holier than thou, shit show that I feel like they came to town.
Using religion as a weapon.
Yes. And so that just tugged at me, and I was like, oh my God, I wanted Ruth to shoot him so bad in his pee-pee.
But wasn't it beautiful?
Like, I want that to end. I loved her.
Wasn't it beautiful that Ruth helped Wendy? Ruth was the one who saved. Like, it was like Marty had to go to him and was like, look, Ruth, you're the only one they would listen. Like that, how genius is that writing?
And when Ruth comes to visit Wendy, that moment between them was so perfect.
Yeah.
And even and what I feel like what happened when she went into that hospital, yes, everything, she had to be she's the strategizer. Is that a word?
Exactly.
She's the one. Like she had the brain power.
She's a strategizer. Yeah.
Yes. And so she was the one thinking 7 steps ahead. Marty he was smart on his feet, but she was always 7 steps ahead. And of course they had their battles. But what I loved, and I'll just try to wrap it up. This show, these characters developed all the way down to the very last shot when the screen goes blank and the gunshot goes off. I feel like they about to be the cartel. Like I got my whole theories of how we gonna continue this show, because now it's gonna be the birds against the sister, who I was like ready for her. I'm so mad.
They always got to give the door crack.
Well,
the door got to be cracked.
Got to be a crack.
Money.
What I did love about this final episode is all the things you guys are saying. But what I loved is that final scene, and they're faced again with another, like, where they think everything has been put to bed. They think everything is, we can finally take a breath. Here shows up another loose end, the private detective, who now is the cop, who basically figured out that they killed the brother. And they also, he has, not only did he figure it out, but he has DNA evidence. He's really, really figured out a way to corner them. And as hard as they tried to shelter their children, as hard as they tried to protect them, another impossible situation, in order for them to survive that moment, Jonah becomes a monster. Jonah in his own way has to, basically kill, if you think that Jonah shot the guy and that's how it ended, then, he basically became everything they were trying to protect him not to be, and he has to, and so you go, what are they going to do with the body? What are they going to, like, so they're back in the hole again, like right when you thought they could come out.
Well,
they
if that is the case,
sunk back down. Yeah.
I think that if it is the case that Jonah did shoot the investigator, I mean, they still got the mortuary. They can still go and
they can still cover up the.
Yeah, I mean, they built a whole infrastructure around disposing bodies, which is kind of what the cartel is like. If we kill somebody on your area, you're going to need to be able to get rid of the bodies, and nobody's giving anyone any guidance on how to get rid of these bodies. They just killing people and being like, all right, clean this up. Like,
right.
Like, hold up, what do I look like? CSI? Like, how do I, just some scrub brushes and stuff. So, but yeah, to your point, I think that scene in the asylum or the mental facility was the recognition, and I don't even know if it was conscious as far as the character's internal workings are. It was a recognition that they are both damaged by their relationship to their father.
Yes.
And I think that once Ruth Langmore realized Wendy's relationship to her father and who her father really was and why her father was doing so. I mean, I don't think she cared anymore for Wendy.
Right.
Because of that, I think she did what she did because she cared for the kids.
For Jonah.
Right.
And Jonah specifically. And so,
and
but
I think she made peace with Wendy. It's a peace thing.
Well, yes, it was a peace thing.
They're not besties.
I think her motivation to do what she did came from her love for the kids, and that was the thing that motivated her. But the recognition, just like you said, was a piece, because up until that point, I don't think either one of them saw each other as human beings, as entities,
right?
Until
they looked
that
down
moment,
upon each other.
Here you are, so desperate to save your kids from someone that I now recognize as a monster.
Mm.
And now I see how you being raised under that monster made you the person that has run into conflict with me and my monster because of my dad. And we're all sitting here puppets to our trauma.
Little monsters.
And so I can at least now see you as human, even though I don't like you and I don't forgive you or anything like that. At least I know that there's a reason for this. There's a connection to this. And I can stop your kids from suffering the same fate and becoming the same person potentially as you did. So I'm going to do this thing that I know how to do really well. And that's what she did. And I was like, okay, go ahead now. Get it, Ruth.
What I really liked too was that Wendy finally, it was almost like the veil was lifted and Wendy couldn't hide who she really is. Like, she couldn't hide it. And Ruth was looking back at her and like, all this time you've been judging me and looking down upon me, and I am you. I am literally exactly like you. And Wendy finally gave Ruth that, just that nod of,
she's right.
That's why I knew they knew who each other were. This show was great. It was great. So I didn't like that Ruth died. I'm in my feelings about it. And I'm mad that Marty didn't try to give a last attempt. Like, I wanted it to be like, because Marty loved her. Marty loved him some Ruth.
Yes,
and he respected her. And he was the only, the kids obviously respected her as well, but he was really the only one from day one. He knew she was clever, and he knew that she needed to be valued, and he knew that this girl might get on my last damn nerves, but I need to make sure she's okay in all of this. I need to make sure that she's not a part of, she's not another victim. I need her, he needed her to know that he never meant to use her. He never meant to hurt her. He never meant for her to get caught in the fray of all of this. And he really did want her. He wanted everything for her. So for me, I just felt like Marty, I felt his reaction wasn't big enough for me. And it could have just been one or two, just like him wiping a tear, like, fuck, I wanted to save us all. And if it comes between her and my kids, I got to pick my kids, but I was very proud of them because, I actually, me, I joined all these Ozark groups because I just had to see what are the masses talking about. And it's really,
I love a good
it's
group.
really 50-50. Like, it's really 50-50. People are very happy with the way it ended, and people are pissed, but the only thing they're pissed about is the same thing I'm pissed about. It just breaks us that Ruth could not, it just breaks us. Because if anyone deserved a future, it was her. She'd earned it.
She's the one. She's the one that had laid it out.
Tragedies never end well.
No.
Exactly. She had inherited all that land. She had inherited all that money. She could walk away, but she had to take petty revenge and take the boat and put herself into this. But that was always her flaw. She could never be happy.
She anyone had to else kill Javier.
had to kill Javier, despite the fact. Like, it's a cartel. It's not like just one dude. Kill him. Somebody's coming to get you.
That's the army is coming. Yes.
Don't do it.
But, the way it ended, though, it's so interesting because I feel like it just kept it kept in the fashion of the speed of the show. And how when you talk about Marty not even there, there was no time to even have a tear. There was no time for tears anywhere in this show.
Listen,
nobody could.
When that girl snitched on Ruth, it was so fast. It wasn't like no day.
Happened,
she was
everything.
Like, "Oh, Ruth, that one over there. Hold on a second.
We need a spin-off just to
Don't
kill her.
Move. If you make eye contact, I'm killing your family." And it was like that. Like, no.
Then they were on the stage. Then they had to go home and sit down. And then they realized there's broken glass. It's like nobody has a freaking
time
moment
to take a breath
to
ever.
Breath. Yeah, it's just nothing. You don't have a moment to shed a tear. I mean, they're crying now. I'm sure we're all in mourning, but it's like this show is brilliant. It's just freaking brilliant.
Really an amazing series that 20 years ago would have dominated network television.
Yeah.
Obviously, because it was on pay-per-view-ish, Netflix, they were able to do things on screen that you weren't able to do on ABC, NBC. And so we got a better show.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, and I'm talking to my people, Because a lot of us don't go watch Netflix and try new shit out. We look at stuff and go, I don't like the picture on that. What's an Ozark? You know, I don't know. That's a space thing. Somebody actually told me that. They're like, I didn't click that because I thought that was some space stuff. Like, no, like it's an arc with the OS in the arc. Like, no, it's the Ozarks. It's a part of the country.
Just read, y'all. Y'all got to read a little bit.
I'm like, just click play.
You're asking for a lot.
My folks have got a good way for Netflix. And they did the 15-minute test. They hit something and they watch 15 minutes, and if it turns them all the way off in 15, they move on. And with Netflix, again, you're not going to get this long junket for all of their best properties. There's some amazing stuff on Netflix that are as worthy of a show as Ozark is, that just are not going to get the shine because people just haven't clicked it. And when they do, it's going to be so haphazard and spread out. It's not going to be this big thing like with Ozark, where we have fans that are coming together for the next drop of the next season. And so, just try it out. I'm telling you, you're going to love it.
Listen, last month I had let my subscription expire because they bumped up the but I repaid that. I repaid it just because of Ozark, because of part 2 of the final season of Ozark, and I literally I dropped it. First of all, I thought you were going in another direction. I'm protesting this 1995 charge. Y'all are crazy. You crazy out here when I'm over here with Hulu is for $7.99, and like I'm done. I'm gonna have to cease and desist for a minute.
They reap those repercussions. You saw that news article that showed all these people just got rid of their Netflix. So
this is the first time that they've ever had low whatever.
And I promise you, if there's anyone from Netflix watching, please watch the BOP. We got great advice. There's some expert advice here on this show.
Watch the BOP. Call my agent and hire me. I'll be on anything.
Please listen. Y'all have done the work. You curated some great shows. You got some great movies. You got some great series. Spend a couple $100,000. Do a junket. Do some promo.
Some of the best.
Hey, we'll promo stuff on the BOP. Come on.
Write that shit.
We're gonna listen. We're gonna be so big. We're gonna be able to be the kingmakers of Netflix, because we love Netflix. And we love what y'all do. Y'all just making some decisions that are hurting your brand. And now when the stock goes down, then all of a sudden it's a problem that people sharing. People are always gonna share. But you know what? The reason why you shouldn't care about that Netflix is because for everybody who's sharing a password for Netflix is somebody that's not going and buying Hulu or Prime or Disney Plus or Paramount.
They're getting their entertainment from you.
You're blocking them out. You know, you may not be making the bucket, but you're blocking out your competition, and that's valuable too. So just like the people, if you're watching the BOP and you only watch 3 shows, the fact that we're the 3rd show means that the 4th show lost.
We'll take it.
Exactly. See how the logic works, Netflix?
Oh my God.
Don't punish us. We love you. We
we'll
love your
be
show.
The number 3. We don't care.
It is.
We'll take it.
If you got my gosh. Podcast that you watch, make us the 3rd, and we'll be happy. We'll be happy with that. We coming for 2nd, and then we coming for 1st. But we're
gonna take that top seat.
We'll take 3 to start. We'll start at 3.
Just happy to be here.
I will say this. I love watching shows. I love binging.
Yes.
And I love watching it and discussing it with the 2 of you.
Yes.
Because you guys, but you know what? That's the beautiful thing about the topics we pick. If anything, we want it to resonate. We just want to have a deeper conversation. And we're all like movie, TV buffs. Like, we love to analyze some shit. We love dynamic characters, right? I love talking, because honestly, Christi, I never saw it the way that you saw it. Your love for Jonah. I didn't get it.
I'm trying to give Hilton a little heart, because Hilton ain't got no heart.
I know. I'm kind of the same way. Like, oh man,
y'all tough. Y'all are real
I
tough.
love it. I love it. But you know what though? That's why we discuss it, because everybody sees it through a different lens. And this show, like Hilton said, you gotta watch Ozark. It is literally it's gonna go down in history. Like The Sopranos has gone down in history as one of the best television shows ever produced.
Breaking Bad, that level.
Ozark, they created magic. I am gutted that it only went 4 seasons.
I know.
I just wanted a 5th season. Like I just was like, come on.
I'm predicting in 3 years they're gonna rebirth. Because I'm gonna tell you, listen, here's my predictions.
I hope
so after Ruth gets shot, 3 is coming out the bushes.
She'll be writing the script.
3 is on top of the trailer, and he's gonna shoot her at long range. He's gonna kill Camila.
Then he's gonna go to the birds and try to get them, because he's gonna think it's their fault, but they ain't got nothing to do with it.
The birds gonna be they taking over in Mexico. The birds are moving to Mexico.
Move away, and they're gonna go to the mountains. It's gonna be called Adirondacks. So it's gonna be like a they're going to another place, right? You know what I'm saying? So so anywhere you go is the new name for the show. You got Adirondacks. You got Appalachian.
Called the grassy knoll. You're gonna be called Key Sweat. Comes to the BOP. Y'all know I'm trying to.
That's BOP Plus. Don't give away the BOP Plus material.
Key Sweat. We love you, Key Sweat.
No.
That's right. Come back, Keith. We not gonna run you over.
Oh, guys. Okay, so thank you so much. Before we go down this slippery
rabbit hole,
the slippery slope of nonsense, because we do that too. We do that too, and we're doing well.
Oh Lord.
We're gonna say goodbye. Thank you for watching the BOP, the BLERD official podcast. We love you. We mean it. And oh my gosh.
Tune in every Tuesday for a new episode of the BOP, the BLERD official podcast.